In this lesson, we'll pick up where we left off, connecting the toes with the rest of the leg and then reusing that geometry for the front legs. All right, so we need to combine this geometry together. So stitch and sew is going to be a good option here for us. So we can kind of figure out how we want to combine this together. So I want to sort of use this as maybe a center line here. And so we'll go in, stitch and sew, and I'm just going to drag from one of these edges to another, and you'll see the corresponding edge line up. And again, you want to use Shift to add a new piece of geometry. We'll do the same thing here. Okay. Now at this point, we actually start to run out of resolution here. So I know I want these to sort of line up. So I can come in here and kind of start to do the same thing over here. You know, you can take a break from that, start to move some points around so that it's a little bit cleaner. Okay, so you are going to be routing a higher resolution piece of geometry into a lower resolution piece. So you can sort of come around your geometry and continue on. So let me get stitch and sew here. We're coming in from this edge up to here. Okay, coming around to the side. You can see we're starting to get a little bit more detail in here. So I want to come in and let's actually include that. Okay, now from this point, we can start to fill some of this geometry in. So we can go up to create closed polygon hole. We can start to fill in some of these triangles here. Okay, and on the back, if we want to just go ahead and fill that in, we can, and then we can use the knife to manually decide where we're going to have that geometry. So I'm going to switch that mode back to line, and again, I'll just use single, and we can start to kind of define where we want this. Now we've got one edge coming in here versus two coming here, so I'll just bring this up and bring this up. Okay, so we're able to come in and combine that together. Okay, and then if you want to come in and modify the points, you can do that too. So for the front arm, if we look at it, really it's pretty much the same as the back leg. It just doesn't have that extra joint in there. It kind of stops right up in here. So I'm actually going to go ahead and take this leg and control drag it to duplicate it. And let's go ahead and just move it kind of up into position. And let's scale it down a little bit. And kind of get that first joint in there, kind of in the right spot. And then we can manually modify this. Okay, so I'm going to take some of the geometry off of here. Well, let's go ahead and select via the loop selection. And select this and this on our copy. And then we can go ahead and take that mesh and let's go ahead and optimize it. Let me go ahead and grab that and run optimize here. So those points are gone. And now we can come in and just modify this. And so we want to shape it to match the arm on the side. So obviously the fingers now, instead of being sort of toes that are flat on the ground, the fingers are bent. And so we can come in and just start to rotate this around. That way we don't have to rebuild any of the fingers or toes. We can start to kind of rotate this a little bit. And it's just going to take a little bit of just manual tweaking. Okay. Anytime you do any sort of modeling, even on something simple like this, you're going to have to do a little bit of work. It's not going to just be pushing buttons. You're going to actually have to move some things around and get them into position. Although Cinema 4D does make things really easy in some cases with their generators and the way the hierarchy works, you can really modify things at least pretty easily. But when you're working with custom shapes like this, it really just comes down to moving points around in many cases. Especially, you know, working with polygons is kind of the lowest level that you can work at. You know, the basic level where you're just pulling points around. And so, you know, oftentimes it just comes down to that. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of scale this down a little and bring it up. Again, it doesn't have to be exact. We just want it kind of in a rough position here. Same thing with this. I'll go ahead and move these points in. And again, with the knife, if you want to add extra resolution in there, you can. All right, we can kind of start to rotate these towards the body a little bit more. Okay, and same thing up here, because this is part of the sort of lower part of the leg, so it wasn't really rotated towards the body. And so I want to start to rotate this towards the body. And then also the model overall is a little bit further away from the body than what I'd like. So we'll go ahead and go back to our object and just move it in towards the body a little bit more. Again, trying to keep it lined up with our side view. So something something like that, maybe a little bit too close. Okay, if you want to kind of turn it in instead of like the leg turned out, you can kind of do that or rotate it. So you just want to get it in a rough position. Okay, and you can tweak the fingers a little bit, curve those out. But that's the basic idea. The fact that we don't have to rebuild this, we can just go ahead and duplicate it when it has details that we can reuse. Okay, so we can tweak those points a little bit more, but in the next lesson, let's take a look at how we can actually combine these three pieces of geometry together into one seamless piece and really start to see the power of the polygons as we create the seamless object. So we'll go ahead and do that in the next lesson.